listening to the Marginally Geeky Show, the epically geeky book club.
Greetings, and welcome to episode 3 of the Marginally Geeky Show. I'm your host for the evening, Eugene Stevens. Tonight's book we'll be discussing is Ready Player One by Ernest Cline. Joining me tonight is Jennifer Hetzel and Ray Andrew. How are y'all doing?
Pretty good.
I'm doing good.
So how have y'all been? It's been a month since we've reconvened. Unfortunately, we're missing quite a bit of the crew. We've got lots of things came up. It was over the holidays. We had lots of things come up, and several people had things come up here and there. So it's just us three tonight, but it should be a pretty good conversation. So,
yeah, it's been pretty busy just trying to keep up with the holidays. So,
yeah, same here. Holiday always, kicks my butt.
Tends to be that way. So, recording this a little bit late. Normally we record at the end of the month. We're actually about a week late, so we'll see how that goes. Who knows? We have to push back future books as well. We'll just kind of see how things go. So, but we'll keep you updated on the website as we go along. So, I guess let's go ahead and get started with our conversation of Ready Player One. This is Ernest Cline's first published book. Let's go ahead and go around real quick and just give a quick. Whether or not, heads up, thumbs up or down, whether or not you enjoyed it. I enjoyed this book greatly. The fact that this was his first published book to me, I'm sure there are authors out there that pardon me, their first book was like their biggest thing. This is going to be the case for Ernest Cline. I want to continue. I've read the second book that he wrote. And I would like to see more work from this author, but man, it's going to be hard to live up to this one because I really did enjoy this book.
Yeah, so I'm with you. I really enjoyed the book overall. I have a couple of little things that I don't particularly enjoy, but that's just me, and I understand why he had to do certain things, and we'll get into that as we talk about it. But overall, liked it. I was, again, like you, I was surprised that this was his first published book, but it was really well polished for the most part, and easy read. It's a really easy read, which I like.
I agree. Jennifer, your thoughts?
Yeah, I like the book a lot. It was a little slow going at the beginning for me, but by the end, I couldn't put it down, and I think I breezed through the last 4 or 5 chapters in less than a few hours. There was a little bit of the language or the way that the characters talk to each other that was a little annoying to me, but I think some of that was just because of their age, and he was trying to emulate, realistically how they would communicate. So,
right.
Yeah. Other than that, I really like the story.
Like I said, and I've explained this before, whenever I quote unquote read, I listen to the audiobook version. The audiobook version of this is read by Will Wheaton, which was funny because, there's that part in the book where he is talking about, that old geezer and referring to himself, which I thought was kind of funny. But definitely he was the perfect person to read this book, being of his age and ilk and his interest and everything. So, so let's go ahead and get started with the book. The book opens up. Basically, it talks about there's a video game, but it's become essentially the internet, the everything, as it were. It's virtual reality. It's called the Oasis, and pretty much everyone does everything in the Oasis. They play games, they go to school, they go to work. Pretty much everyone does everything in the Oasis, and that is because in the future, it's once again a dystopian hell. There's a fuel crisis. There's a food shortage. Pretty much, like I said, everything's just kind of crapped out. So everyone kind of escapes to the Oasis. And in the Oasis, you can be anything you want, just do anything. And the book starts off with the one of the co-founders, co-inventors of the game, James Halliday, or as he's known in the game, Anorak, passes away. And he leaves this message basically saying, and it's very heavily laced with a bunch of 80s references, which, that should give you a good idea of what the book's going to be like. But he leaves this video and he starts describing this quest, that there are 3 gates and 3 keys that are hidden somewhere within the oasis. And since he has no heirs, the first person to discover and unlock all 3 gates will end up winning his vast fortune and pretty much control over the oasis. And then it talks about the fact that one becomes what's referred to as an egg hunter, or is truncated to Gunter, and years go by and no one finds anything, and eventually it kind of becomes an urban legend of, this is probably just this old kook who was kind of going crazy anyway. This was his, he just did this as a last hilarious joke. There's probably nothing really happening here. It's all really fake, even though there are people still after it. We it's told first person by the main character, Wade Watts, who in the Oasis goes by the name of Parzival. 5 years after the game begins, he finds the first key, and it's him telling basically what led up to it, and then of course what happened afterwards. So, this point.
So.
Go on.
Well, I was just going to say, you've just covered the first 100 pages of the book, and I can't believe it took 100 pages to get there. I think you were referring to that, Jennifer, where it's a bit of a slow start.
Yeah.
That's one of my complaints, is that it does take a while to get going, but I understand why he does it. It's so that you can kind of understand Wade and his relationship with H, which is his best friend online. And then and kind of you understand the world a little bit as well. So I get why he did it. It took 100 pages to get to where you're at.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's necessary because there's a lot of things that kind of refer back to the stuff he talks about, especially with Halliday, but it is kind of hard to read through some of it sometimes. Yeah.
He goes through, we find out he lives in what's referred to as the stacks. It's these formed around these cities, the crumbling cities. Pardon me, my allergies are killing me. And are these, like, literally these mobile homes that are stacked one on top of each other, like up to 15 high, and he has to climb down from these stacks to get to his little hideout that he's created. That's away from his aunt's house. Both of his parents are deceased, and was able to go to school in the Oasis. So he's been going there. It talks about, he goes through how bad things are there and so on and so forth. And then it starts talking about how Halliday loved the 80s, and that's what everything's become so involved with. Like, one of the side effects of because it's so much money and so much control, everyone is after it. So slightly in the future, like, everyone becomes super obsessed with the 80s, to the point that the culture, literally it's like the 80s culture just comes back in roaring fashion, which as a child of the 80s, is why it really resonated with me so much.
Yeah, I definitely love that part of it too, where it was all like the Captain Crunch cereal that he's talking about at one point, and all the commercials. And it's like, they're nostalgic now, and it's pretty wicked to hear and see that.
Which is funny because we see resurgences of different time periods, coming back. Like, it's funny, when I was teaching just a few years ago, kids walking around singing or listening to from the 90s, and I was like, you weren't even born then, or you were just like barely conceived then. Like, how do you know this music? And then I think about it, I'm like, oh, your parents are about my age, and I'm sure, just like I'm doing now, you're your parents were showing you the stuff that you were into. So, I mean, good example. My boys are into Ghostbusters. They're into Transformers. I got an NES Classic. So, literally, the video games we're playing are the games I played in the 80s. So, yeah.
Yeah, the depressing thing is they think that stuff is the oldies, and it really puts it in perspective for us.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
But so it talks about that. It talks about the he does mention his crush, a young lady named Artemis, who's also another gunter. She's kind of got a following online. Like I said, he's got a pretty big crush on her, but there's no way in hell he'll ever meet her, so on and so forth. So, first clue was he noticed that it was notched letters in the almanac. This almanac that was left behind by James Halliday that basically chronicled all of his thoughts. It chronicles like every movie he ever watched, every song he listened to, every game he played. Debate as to what is considered quote unquote canon. The movies that he of the 80s that he really enjoyed, so on and so forth. There are notched letters in the almanac on both the printed version that he has and in the on the online copy. And from that, he's able to figure out that the first key is located on his school planet called Ludus, which is it's like the only place he can go. He can go he can not really go to any other planets within the Oasis because he's poor. He has no money. He kind of has to bum rides off of other people and stuff, and he doesn't really care for doing that. So he's very low level, so on and so forth. And at the first game, or the first key is actually located on the planet of Ludus, where he's at. It wouldn't cost him anything really to get there. He just has to find a way to get around the planet itself, and it's from a Dungeons and Dragons module called the Tomb of Horrors. He manages to get there. He goes to the tomb. He's using the manual that's basically it's the one of the things I really like about this book is this idea of turning these games or movies and stuff. We'll get into that more in a minute. Into three-dimensional like experiences. So even though the D&D module, it was a text game. So every trap that's there, listed in the Dungeons and Dragons module is there, and it's in the same location, so on and so forth. So he's able to around and not fall into any traps or whatever, and he gets to the Lich King, and he's like, okay, well, he's pretty much gonna wipe me out if I have to fight him or whatever. And in order to battle the Lich, he tells him they're going to joust, and literally a stand-up arcade version of Joust appears. And it's at this point I'm just like, oh my god, this is getting really awesome.
Well, and I love the visual because even the character himself said this must look really weird. I am standing in my night gear and I've got a flame sword on my back and all this stuff. I'm standing next to this king next to me, and he's all in his gear, and we're playing on an arcade machine. What the hell's going on? This is awesome. So I think it's awesome.
The arcade system shows up. I'm like, okay, so he's playing a game within a game. That's kind of cool. And then he figures out that in order to beat the Lich King, he's playing second player. He's like, hey, can I switch to first player? Because I usually play first player. I think that's what it was. The Lich King agrees, so they swap over.
Yeah, go ahead.
Which, by the way, if I were, we'll talk about this near the end, but if I were trying to run through this, if I had to do this, I would have never beat him. I suck at Joust. Always sucked at Joust.
Hard game, man.
Yeah.
I've never played it.
Oh, it's rough. It's a rough game. So he he plays the Lich King and he manages to beat him on his first try. And then he's awarded the copper key. So he's looking over the copper key and he's on his way out, and another person shows up, and he kind of
He's on guard.
He's trying to figure out what's going on, and it turns out to be Artemis, which of course he's completely dumbstruck. So they have a conversation, a little rough at first, and then they kind of start to kind of go back and forth a little bit. He's trying his best not to see that he's managed to beat the Lich King. But she figures it out pretty quick. She's a sharp girl in the book, which yes. I like. I like the fact she's sharp. She picks up on stuff, and she basically tells him, look, it's supposed to reset at midnight. And when she figures out that he's gotten the key, she basically locks him in there with her until she's able to, until midnight when it resets or whatever, to help slow him down.
Really smart on her part again. Like, it shows her intelligence level.
So he once the clock resets, he gives her the hint to play on the other side, doesn't he? I believe so.
Yeah. He finally relents and okay, yeah, I did, but I switched sides, no, he didn't tell her how, and then it was at the very end. That's he says to her as she's like about to walk away, listen, try going on the other side.
Yeah. So he ends up finding according, I don't remember exactly what the hint on the key was, but he ends up having to find a TRS-80, one of the original home computers, or what was lovingly referred to as a Trash 80. I know several older guys that had Trash 80s, loved those systems. Had no memory in it. Like, basically you backed everything up to a cassette tape, which he talks about because he was able to save his game as he's going through this next part and this, that, and the other. So he ends up finding a Trash 80, and he's able to open up the first gate. And that's when the book takes yet another turn. So, and like I said, and I mentioned before that Halliday has listed like every book, every movie, every TV show, every video game, every song, everything he's ever listened to, loved in the 80s. And it pretty much hits everything because he goes through the first gate and he becomes a playable character in the movie War Games, which is awesome.
I love that idea.
And we'll talk about that in just a bit. So he manages to basically, he plays his way all the way through War Games. He's like exhausted at this point, but he ends up playing. He ends up beating it. And then he comes to find out that his name is now on, quote unquote, the scoreboard, the website that had set up that basically was his homepage or whatever, now lists the player rankings as they go through this game. And he's number 1, and he sees that Artemis is number 2. And at this point, he oh, that's right. He starts, he talks to his, he starts to kind of, or whatever. Well, I say his friends, his one friend, H. H is a professional game player online, and hangs out with him. They're both gunters or whatever, but they both said they're going to be solo. They'll never team up or whatever. But he does, once H starts thinking about it, he contacts him and he's like, hey, I found it too or whatever. So H goes through. Shortly afterwards, play through, get the key in the first gate and everything else. At this point, he starts getting a ton of endorsement deals, which he starts signing because, like I said, in both the game and in real life, he has no money. But the first quest basically like bumps him up to like level 10, and he actually has a decent amount of money, more money than he's ever seen in his life. Yeah. But he starts going to do these endorsement deals, and he starts getting messages from this company called IOI. The IOI is I don't remember what it stands for, but it's a large conglomerate company. Basically, they own most of the internet service providers. They've been a direct competitor against the company that owns that runs the Oasis, and according to the rules, have kind of been bending the rules and have hired a bunch of people that they're later known as the Sixers or Suxors because of their name tags. And they're trying to win the game so that they can get control of the Oasis and start charging people. And as he referred to it, basically make it this, pay to play game for just the extremely rich in the world. So,
yeah.
Which once again, most everyone does everything in the Oasis. So it's like, it'd be like if someone told you they started charging you money to look up at the sky. It would be that big a deal.
Yeah.
Charge for Facebook.
Yeah,
Well,
no joke.
Charging you to go to work. Like, a lot of people work in the Oasis, right? So you're actually getting charged to go to work.
Exactly. Yeah, because I think it said to sign up for an account was like a time fee of $0.25 or 50 cents or something like that in the very beginning, and that was it.
It was a quarter.
Yeah,
I think it was an arcade game.
That's right. It was just $0.25. So, messages, and he gets one specifically from the head of this, not the company, but of the division that's supposed to be over this, called Nolan Sorrento. He holds out for a while, and then he finally does kind of, is like, all right, well, fine. I guess I'll just meet with these assholes and see what they have to say.
It's because they're email bombing him, so he's getting an email from every minute on the minute, and
exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
To this whole thing where they take him to this private chat that looks exactly like their actual headquarters and everything else, and they're trying to impress him, and they basically make him an offer of like a multi-million-dollar deal, a signing bonus, and they want him to come work there and to help him find the eggs, so on and so forth. And he tells them, nope, not going to do that. And they're like, okay, we'll tell you what, we'll make you another deal. We'll just give you a lump sum of cash, and you tell us how to get past the first gate, and then we're done. And he basically tells them, blow it out your ass, and the most stylish fashion he could think of. And right as he's about to walk out, they call him by his actual name, which no one is supposed to know your real name. They're like, yes, we know exactly who you are. We know where you're at. And they bring up video feeds that literally show the trailer that they think he's currently in. He's still in his hiding place, but they're in the trailer that he's in. And basically tell him, you're going to help us get to the first gate, or we're going to kill you. And he's like, well, I thought about it. There's no reason for you to keep me alive. And he basically logs off. He sits in his base for a few minutes. He's like, yep, it was a bluff. And then a bomb goes off. A literal bomb goes off. And his aunt, uncle, well, his aunt, not really his uncle, but his aunt and all the people who live in the trailer and all the people who lived in the surrounding trailers are basically dead. Yeah. Which, of course, scares the hell out of him.
And you got to think, like, if that were me, I'd be shitting my pants. Like,
oh yeah,
yeah. I'm kind of surprised that he thought they were bluffing, because everything seemed to indicate that they were pretty dangerous, and I wouldn't have even met with them.
Yeah, but he is right though. Like, he was right in the fact that, you know what, they have no reason to keep me alive. If I help them out, they're gonna blow this trailer one way or another. So at least I can call them on their bluff if it is a bluff, but I'm safe. And the only unfortunate part was that he knew he was risking his aunt's lives, his aunt's and those other people's lives. And but he made a call thinking it was a bluff. And I remember, like, he even felt like it was okay for a few minutes, and then all of a sudden the bomb does go off.
Yeah. And go on.
I was going to say, before he got to the point, he actually, bluffed them and said, "Oh, I'll do it if you make me."
I love that.
Hit charge.
Oh,
do you think they were actually when they accepted it? Because they said yes, and then he said, "No, I'm just kidding."
He was going to take Sorrento's job, which
he's like, "I want your job. I want you out of here," and I want everyone to call me like numero uno or something like that. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that was very hilarious. It's at this point that the book, for me, this is where the book like completely changes. Like, up to this point, it's okay. It's him. It's by himself, and there are these other people who have managed to get in there. But then now, this company is like kind of edging their way in, and so it's okay. It's gonna be let's see if he opens the gate and gets everything before he wins the game before everyone else. It's at this point it's like, oh shit! It's not just does he do this? Is he going to survive this as well? Like this becomes not just a game. This is life or death. So yeah,
and you can feel that switch. Because now he starts trying to go off to the city and get the apartment, and like that all happens very quickly.
Yeah. At this point, he basically contacts the other 5 people who have also unlocked the gate. It's him, his best friend H, Artemis, who did manage to beat it, and then 2 Japanese brothers named Daido and Shoto.
The high five.
Do what?
The high five.
Yes, the high five, which is an awesome thing. So they all meet in a private chat session that H has. They kind of discuss it. They're basically, he's warning them. He says, look, these guys are serious. You need to watch out for yourselves. But they all decide, look, we're not going to work together. They're like, okay. So the IOI and the Gunters do end up finding the first gate. They basically take over the planet. Like there's this whole mass hysteria thing where like they literally have to copy and paste the planet, the school planet, to another location, minus the secret code for the game, and move everyone over there. So
yeah, the planet of schools is completely duplicated. That's hilarious.
And that's awesome. So, which is an interesting idea. That's one of the things I like about this, about the idea in this book, that the universe, as it were, is multiple, and like some of them that magic works, some of them that technology works, some of them neither works, some of them both work. Some of them are a player versus player, so you can actually be hurt and killed area.
Some of them are not.
Some of them are completely safe. Yeah. So it's at this point, he's kind of doing his own thing. Some time passes. No one's found anything yet. And
can't figure out where the next gate is, and
no one else can kind of figure it out. And it's at this point he also he and Artemis start communicating with each other, and it becomes more and more friendly. She keeps telling him there's nothing going on, and yet it's definitely something is going on. They're definitely getting romantically involved.
He is head over heels.
He's putting the game kind of behind him. He's not really it's at this point, this is also when he moved, right?
Yeah, so he moved, and then he started kind of dating her without dating her, I guess you can say.
Yeah. He moves into this little apartment. Yeah, he moves into this little apartment, and basically, he even says he paints the windows because he's everything outside's a distraction. I'm just focusing on the game. And then, of course, like we've been talking about, gets really involved with her. An invite from Og. Og is the other co-founder, the other co-inventor of the game. He's still alive. He has a big birthday party, and basically, invites, only the greatest people there or whatever, and has invited all 5 of the high five. The only 2 who show up are Artemis and, pardon me,
Percival.
Sorry, I blanked out on his name. And it's at this point he tells her that I'm in love with you. In the traditional online fashion, she's like, look, this isn't real. I think we need to back off. And it's at this point the Sixers basically break in, start killing a bunch of people. There's this huge fight that goes on. Og basically comes out and just shows them that he's basically God mode in this simulation, which is awesome.
I can't wait to see that in the movie.
That's good. Yes.
We'll get to that.
Let's just talk real quick about the idea of this dance floor. That basically the entire, it's basically a big sphere, and you walk on the outside of the sphere, but to get to the dance floor area, as it were, you basically push off, and you're in the center, and you're floating, which is something that's not possible here. Yeah, zero gravity, which is an awesome idea. I mean, once again, world, you can do pretty much anything. So that's a very cool idea for a virtual dance studio. So
yeah.
So basically, at this point, he goes into depression mode. He's broken up. He's kind of like he's not really talking to his best friend H anymore because he
abandoned.
Wasn't
him.
really he was spending more and more time with Artemis instead of H. He does go on a quest with Dido and Shoto, and finds the Ultraman beta capsule. And by giving it to him at the end, he's like basically, or at least he at least leaves on good terms.
Yeah.
Yeah. So being that it is technically a game, there are these quote unquote artifacts that are remnants of when it was just simply a game and not just this, all arching simulation that are super powerful. They may give you the ability to run super fast or flight or super strength or whatever. And he talks about the one, it's literally the capsule from the TV series that you turned into Ultraman for like 3 minutes. So it's pretty cool.
And I like that there's a time limit on that. That's,
Yeah. And see, I never watched Ultraman, so I don't know if there was a time limit in the show either. So who knows?
Yeah,
that may actually be there too.
There is a time limit on the show as
well. Anyway, it's at this point Artemis finds the Jade Key, and he's just like, oh my god, I can't believe this. She's actually been working. I've been stupid. And then IOI uses this artifact to find it. So he kind of figures it out really quick. She sends him a message and basically gives him just enough of a hint as a way to pay him back for his original hint.
I think it's H. Is it H that gives him the message or the hint?
Yeah.
No, it's Artemis.
No, H.
Or was it H?
H sends him an email and says, "Now I don't."
He finds it first, or before.
That's right. Yeah.
Him.
Yeah. So H is like, "I don't owe you anymore. My debts are repaid. This is your clue." And
before that, though, he thinks he has it figured out, and he goes to the Planet Arcade, which basically looks like an old Atari game, and he goes through and he plays he has to end up playing a perfect game of Pac-Man, which is and he gets another artifact, which is a quarter, which he has no idea what it does. It doesn't say anything.
All it is a 1981 quarter.
Yeah,
but he spends like a whole day of his life on that, doesn't he?
Which I mean, trying to do a perfect game of Pac-Man is like there's like very few recorded instances of it happening. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
But I do love the fact that he goes into detail about that and like to get a perfect game of Pac-Man, like the kill screen and everything else. So
yeah.
If we haven't mentioned this by already. The author, Ernest Cline, is a huge 80s nut. Like, he did a lot of research, but a lot of this is just from his personal memory. Like, I've seen interviews with the guy. The man knows the 80s back and forth. So, a lot of this is just, his personal memories of stuff. So, but you're right. So H gets the key, and then he sends him a message and basically tells him it's on the cover of Zork. So he heads to the planet Zork. He has to collect these treasures, and that's where he has to blow the famed crunch whistle. Reading this book, before I got to that part, as soon as they mentioned a whistle, something in my head just thought, I wonder if this is the Captain Crunch whistle that Captain Crunch, the famous hacker, actually used. And sure enough, that's what it is. So if we had gotten to this, if we were doing one of those escape room situations, I would have been able to help with that part. So
it's funny. This book actually got me to do a lot more research because I found it interesting, and I actually did a lot of research on that guy. And there's a documentary I actually watched on him too. It's pretty crazy how he figured it all out.
Oh yes, it's insane. And what's really insane is he met with Steve Wozniak, and Steve Jobs, and they, using the stuff that he learned, they created their first invention they ever had together that they sold was called a blue box, and it was basically a little digital thing that would do exactly what the Captain Crunch whistle would. And they got caught, but the police didn't know what it was, so they let them go. Yeah, it's insane that all these ingenious people were all right. Yeah, so.
Well, and I like that they were, like, they're running the world now. So it's.
Yeah, no joke. Yeah. So he gets the key. It's in foil. The Sixers make this big attack or whatever. He barely gets out. And then they notice that Shoto's score is gone. And I'm sorry, Shoto's score goes up, so he also got the key. And then Dido's score disappears. Yeah. And they're like, oh my God, he must have died or whatever, so on and so forth. Sorrento clears the second gate, and 2 days later gets the crystal key. And he's just like, he's beside himself at this point. They're like, well, the Sixers are going to win. They've cleared the gate before I've even found the gate, and they've got the next key before I've even found, I haven't even gotten to that point.
They've got the last key, and they're sitting.
Exactly.
They're so far ahead, it's over. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's at this point, Shoto contacts him and tells him that Dido is dead. Like, not just in the game, like in real life, he has passed away.
Yeah,
and that.
I remember the first time I read that. That was a pretty moving part in the book where it's like, wow, this is crazy.
Brothers, they were both they had become so in tune to each other, they were basically like brothers,
and they hadn't even met in real life.
No. Exactly. And that he had been killed. It wasn't that he didn't commit suicide like the news reported. He had been killed. IOI had taken him out. It describes this huge battle where they were in the process of getting the key, turned into Ultraman, and was basically just wreaking havoc on the IOI soldiers and ships and stuff, and then his chair and threw him off of his balcony. Expired, and his character died, and that's why he never regenerated, and he managed to get a few things. And he brought back the beta capsule and gave it to Parzival.
He actually died like protecting his friend, though, which I thought was, in real life, but also in the game, which I thought was pretty telling.
Yeah.
One thing we also haven't really mentioned yet was that IOI is using cheat tactics in order to win this thing, right? Like, they're
true.
So the rules of the Oasis are that you only have one avatar and only one person can be using that avatar. And so the IOI has figured out how to rig it so that anybody can use any avatar within their system. And then also they have live feeds to any books or videos or whatever they could think of, as well as scholars that are, heavily informed. So totally cheating to get this, and that's why all these people are against them.
Yeah, we did. That is an important part, is the fact that they tipped their hand when they initially gave me the offer, talking about that their rigs are hacked, so that like you said, that it's not just a single person playing; it's a single person with like a team of experts helping them out the entire way. So
yeah, and then if somebody's not good at joust, say, then that somebody that is good at joust can take over that character, which defeats the purpose of what Holiday had actually set out to do in the first place.
Yep.
Yeah, they're basically the worst.
Yeah, exactly. That's a good way to explain it. They're the worst.
The worst.
Sorry, I just wanted to throw that in there. So
no, I'm glad you did, because we did gloss over that. So, he says the word unicorn. The little foil wrapper he has turns into a unicorn, like in Blade Runner, and he figures out where he's going to go, to the second gate. He fights through a building. The way he explains it, to me, it seems like it was a scene like from The Matrix.
Yeah, that's kind of what I picture too.
And then he takes the test basically to see if whether or not he's a replicant, and uses the key to go into the second gate. Once he's in there, he's in a bowling alley, and he gets sucked into the game Black Tiger, where he plays it first person instead of being a side scroller, which once again, awesome idea for a game.
Yeah.
That part I was thinking about, wow, why are there like side-scrolling Nintendo games would I like to try to do first person like that? And I'm like, man, Double Dragon would be awesome. So he goes through, he plays Black Tiger. He ends up beating it, and he ends up getting a giant robot toy. Spider-Man, who is basically the Japanese version of Spider-Man was in.
Yeah.
So, which like I said, this is so heavily the 80s. Like the fact that they reference that is insane. So
well, and the other thing to mention there too is that he noticed that there are other robots that are no longer selectable. So the previous people have selected different ones, and as soon as one is selected, you don't get that one anymore.
What they are, you just know that they're gone. So
that's right.
And then he sees a red star, and he knows it's from Rush's 2112 album. So he goes to the planet of Cyrix. He gets the guitar from the cave behind the waterfall, like it says in music. He plays the music and sees a message about needing others to open the gate. I don't know if anyone else has figured that part out. So because he's like, surely they just got the guitar and went on. They didn't actually play the music, which he did, and saw the special message. And then he gets the next key. And it's at that point that he realizes that they figure, that IOI has figured out where the final gate is, and it's at Anorak's castle, which no one has ever stepped foot in. And so they're there at Anorak's castle, and they basically the entire army is there. They have this huge impenetrable force field around it that no one can get through, and they're basically just waiting for the game to be over, and nothing happens for like days, and then like weeks go by, and they're like, well, why haven't they ended this game yet? And it's obvious they don't know how to open the third gate, or at least they don't know how to pass it.
Yeah.
Each Artemis and Shoto and tells them how to get the third key so that they can get set up as well. And it's at this point he basically I guess you'd say the third act kind of starts, where he enacts his ludicrous suicide plan, as it were.
Yeah. What are you thinking?
At this point, it's like, okay, this is really wow. You're really taking it out there. But I guess if you live in this world, and this is all you know and all you love, to save it. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And that is the biggest evil in the whole thing. So you got to do what you got to do.
So his plan is he hacks his identity and calls himself a different name and gets himself put on the indentured servitude list for IOI, which is an interesting concept that might actually ever come back.
Yeah, that it's actually a thing in this book.
Yeah. So basically, he gets pulled out of his apartment, and he's now as it were, for IOI. Information that he's got, in his back pocket or whatever, and he manages to hack their servers from within. And there he gets a bunch of data that includes like all the information they have on him, all the information they have on the other members of the High Five, to including video of their death threat against him, the actual murder of Daito.
Yep.
He ends up collecting that data and formulates a plan as to how he's going to try to get out. He sees that they're really closing in on H and Artemis, more so Artemis and Shoto. So he kind of has to accelerate his plan, and he does this daring escape to get out. I say daring in that it's mostly hacking and a little social engineering, but would be scary as hell trying to commit.
Oh,
How, like, it was ridiculous to me that he was able to get all that information through his screen in his little cubicle.
Well,
I mean, impressively ridiculous, but
it was a very, very quick thing though, that all of a sudden they kind of glossed over a little bit, where he previously had bought information from a guy that made the program for IOI, and so it was a backdoor.
yeah.
So it kind of glossed over that really quickly. But so he memorized the password and login and positioned himself just right so that nobody could see what he was doing on his screen. So it is extremely impressive that was capable, but
Yeah, that was just crazy to me.
yeah.
I mean, it's not insane that something like that would happen. Like,
No.
that people would encode, backdoors and stuff like that. Because I know that shit happens, but yeah, just the level of ability he kind of seemed to.
But again, he's grown up in the Oasis, right? So
True.
he's had to figure all this stuff out. So
He contacts the group. He's like, basically, they meet up in H's little bunker, and of course it's online. And he basically tells everyone, look, you need to get out. You know where you are. So most of them are like, look, I'm in this, I'm in a rental internet place. I'm not really that safe or whatever. Because he's like, basically,
I'm in Vancouver.
I'm sorry. They're basically like, he wants to do this major attack and bring down the wall. They're like, well, how are you going to bring down the shield? He's like, don't worry about it. It will happen. And they're like, well, I'm not in a position to be able to do that. And it's at this point that Og shows up and is basically, once again revealing his godlike powers and tells them, look, I've got a ton of money. I was, I basically, told my friend that I would not intervene, but I would protect the honor of what it is you built. So he's like, I feel like I need to intervene because all the chips are stacked against you. I need to do something. So he basically flies everyone to his place, but asks that H be able to pick up Percival and then meet him at the airport. And it's at this point Percival and H finally meet for the first time. Was anyone slightly shocked?
Yeah,
I was a little, yeah. I didn't expect him to be a her.
Well, not just because H's character is pretty good looking, white, tall, athletic, male. In real life, slightly heavy set, female.
Yeah.
And at first he's like, it's a little weird. As they started talking, it's like, yeah. As they start talking, it's like, you've always been my friend. It's no different now. So, which was nice.
Yeah, he got over it really quickly, which is good. So,
yeah, the fact that the reason she gave for, choosing the avatar she did, kind of says a lot that in that, in the future, that's still an issue, that race is still such a prevalent thing, and at least according to the author.
yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I mean, it's not like our society right now is showing that to be any different. So,
Right.
That's
You would hope that it
we'll
advance.
yeah, we'll
That's a whole
stick to
other
the
show.
book. Yeah. So at this point, they get on this self-flying plane, which love the idea of that, and they go to meet Og. Og basically lives in the man is so insanely lives in a recreation of not Isengard. Which one is it? It's one of the elf cities from the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, Eldron.
Is it?
Isengard? Oh, I can't.
Rivendell. It's Rivendell. That's right. Thank you, Chris. Yeah, he lives. He basically lives in a recreation of Rivendell, to the point that he's like he literally pulls a torch, a torch off the wall to light them as they go through. But then he starts talking about, and we started getting some of the backstory. They've kind of hinted about it as they went through. And Ogden Morrow is his actual name. Og and Halliday were best friends. Og was kind of like the salesman. Halliday was the programmer, very much a Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak kind of situation.
Yeah.
Halliday was very shy around women, and the only one he ever really felt comfortable with was the woman who ended up becoming Og's wife, which apparently was the reason why they split. He just never could come out and tell her how he felt, so of course neither one of them knew, and it just built up, and he's just like, I can't be around you. I love her so much. I can't see you two together. It's just, so they split. And he finally tells, he finally opens up and tells that when he asks, and he's like, thank you for telling me that, because I know you've never told that to anyone else.
Yeah.
So then we get to the big battle, the epic battle, which I just absolutely love.
Wait. Can't
yes.
wait.
So basically, they send a message to every single player in the Oasis, tell them to show up at noon, the shield's going to go down, and we're basically going to wipe out the Sixer army, and we're going to take the castle. They're like, well, who knows if anyone's going to show up or whatever. And as they're gearing up for this, instead of taking his X-Wing fighter or his DeLorean or his ship, I don't remember what he renamed it, but it's the ship from Firefly, he puts down his toy robot and uses the call, and it turns into a giant robot. And he gets in the giant robot, and it transforms, and it flies to the castle. And he shows up, and he's there with the other members of the now High Four, all of their giant robots. And like, there's just thousands of other players there. There are, all of these other groups that are they're all armed to the teeth, and the army's on the other side of the shield. And then Sorrento walks out, and he's basically like, you're more than welcome to try to come in, but it's not going to happen. Yeah. And it's at that point he explains what his little plan was, and this is just awesome. He programs, while he was inside their base, still inside their company, he programmed a robot that looks like Johnny Five. Once again, love the 80s references.
Yep.
Johnny Five to basically detonate a grenade next to the guy that's holding the shield generator, and that's what causes the shield to go down. Shield goes down.
Yeah.
Shield goes down. No one moves for and then just all hell breaks loose. I'm sorry. Before that happens, Sorrento and the other members of the Sixers put down their giant robots, and included the 5 lions that turned into Voltron. I think there was another one, and then his was actually the biggest and most powerful robot of all, Mecha Godzilla.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's almost as big as the castle. So the shield goes down, and just all hell breaks loose. Like, the Sixer army is getting wiped out left and right, but no one can defeat. So they're like, all right, well, the Voltron lions didn't even get to form Voltron. They basically got torn apart before that ever happened. But no one can get into the castle unless you have a key. So they're like, all right, just make a break. It's at that point that Daito attacks. He takes out one of his arms, but Mecha Godzilla ends up blasting him and kills him. He has a key, so it's just the 3 now. And Artemis make their way in, and Parzival decides he's going to make one final stand. He's like, this asshole deserves to be humiliated in front of everybody.
Yeah.
So he jumps out of his giant robot, or actually, I think his giant robot almost explodes. He gets out of it and he activates the beta capsule and turns into Ultraman, who is with Mechagodzilla, and proceeds to whip his ass.
Yeah. What a scene.
Okay. Yeah, I can't. Yeah, okay. So we're gonna have to finish get through the rest of this because that's gonna bring up a major topic. Anyway,
I know.
ends up meeting Sorrento, goes inside, gets with the other three. They figure out that the only way to open up the gate is by using a song from Schoolhouse Rock. I love these references. The whole way just makes me feel so warm and fuzzy inside.
Yeah.
This other artifact, this super weapon goes off and literally kills everyone within that part of the galaxy. Is the magic quarter that he has that no one knew what it did. And of course, at this point, Og has patched the rest of his group in with him, and they're like, well, why are you still alive? How are you still doing this? He's like, I don't know. So he has to scramble to figure out how to get into the gate. Last part of the Sixer army gets there to out. He manages to do that. And he has to play Tempest. And Artemis remembers a special trick on how to get multiple men. Once again, I would have never passed this. I suck at Tempest.
I think most people do.
Yeah. So, because he didn't even have to get a high score. He just has to beat Halliday's score, if I remember correctly.
Which
then, I'm sorry.
Still impressive.
Yes. Then once he does that, he goes into another one of these things called a flick sync where he plays through a movie. And this time it's Monty Python and the Holy Grail.
What a great movie.
Yes. You can't get more epitome geek really than that. So
yeah.
He goes through, plays Holy Grail. Then he enters in the room. It's just completely full of games and computers or whatever. He starts trying to boot them up or whatever. He finds one old computer, the oldest computer. I don't remember what it was. And he types in. He cannot figure what the word is to type in. It's a special password. And he tries all these different words, and he remembers that something that Halliday really loved was Og's wife, but he only referred to her as her name when they played Dungeons and Dragons, which is, I think, Lucosia.
Yeah.
Computer start up. He immediately fires up an Atari 2600.
Oh, we lost you there, bud. Eugene?
Hello?
Hello? Sorry, Eugene, we just lost you there, bud.
Oh, I'm sorry. What was I talking about?
So all the computers booted up, and he found the Atari. And then
Okay, yeah. So all the computers boot up. He finds the Atari 2600, fires up a copy of Adventure. Finds the Easter egg, which is the first Easter egg in any video game ever, which created the idea of an Easter egg.
I love how they put that back to the beginning of the book.
Exits the gate, places the egg on a pedestal, and then Anorak shows up. And I mean, granted, it's a digital version of him because he's passed away, but he basically shows up and he's like, "You win. Good job. Giving you all of my power. I'm giving you everything I own. Try to use it for you can." And then shows him the super secret red button that will basically turn off the Oasis and wipe everything clean. He's like, if you need to use it, then he fades away. He's able to hear everyone again. He goes outside, defeats the Sixers using his new special powers. He brings everyone back to life. They see that the government has stepped in because they sent out all the information that he had stolen from IOI showing the death threats and everything. The government's intervened. They've pulled Sorrento out of his chair and they're trying to prosecute him and everything. Look, there's a bunch of lawyers here waiting to meet you, to basically sign everything over, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, can I make him wait? He's like, they work for you. You can make him wait as long as you want. And he goes outside to meet Artemis in real life and has his first kiss, and it's very sweet. the book.
Yeah.
I loved this book. I loved this book. Just it feels very. I mean, it's granted, it's got a lot of '80s reference, but it feels very much of an '80s type flick. I mean, boy gets the girl. The girl is not a damsel in distress by any means.
No.
It's the girl. But the references just by themselves were just phenomenal. So,
yeah.
Did you know that Ernest Cline, when he initially wrote this book and published it, that he actually put a game inside the printed copy?
Yes, he did, and I love that he did that, and that there were people that actually figured it out, and the first person got a DeLorean.
Yes, that is insane.
Yeah.
If you ever want to see a quick interview of him, on Netflix, I cannot remember what it's called. It's about Atari burying all the ET cartridges in.
Right.
Shows up in that documentary. He drove from Austin. He lives in Austin, Texas, just an hour south of where I'm at. He drove from Austin to there to be at this event in his DeLorean.
Nice.
So the questions I was going to ask. So puzzle solving stuff. Like have either of y'all done any of those escape room things?
I haven't done any of those, but Chris gets mad at me because whenever we're watching a movie, or if typically in a book or life, he gets upset because I try and figure stuff out, and I usually have it figured out well before somebody else does. And I love puzzles. I love one of my favorite gifts I've ever gotten was the cubes that you can get, or the metal mystery things that you got to figure out how, like, get the key off or whatever. I love those.
Yeah.
So those are up my alley for sure.
What about you, Jennifer?
I'm miss. Sometimes I'm good at figuring out the twist, noticing the little things, and sometimes I'm just oblivious, and that's kind of how I was in this book, off and on. But but yeah, I love trying to figure things like that out in a good, brain teaser. I've never done an escape room, but we just had one open here where we live. It looks really neat. We went in and I explored it, and I want to try it sometime because see how I do,
here.
How terrible I am, or
we had at my last tech meeting, they kind of came up with a simplified version of one for us, and I'll be honest, I didn't do so well, and I think part of the problem was I was way overthinking it. Like the clues were once I found out what the clues were, I was like, well, why didn't I think of that? Like, I was trying to put way too much meaning behind stuff. So part of me, I still want to try one. My wife has tried one. I think they succeeded. Her team succeeded. She said she wasn't much help. She was but she had a good time. I'd like to do it sometime. Number one, just to see if we could do it. I've just got to find a group of people that would like to do it.
They listed the success rates onto the different rooms on the wall or something, and they're pretty low. It's like under 20%, under 10% for some of them.
Wow.
If you've got to
see, that sounds interesting.
Yeah. But
so, another question I had while reading the book: what movies would you love to do a flick sync to?
Oh, you know what? What would be fun? The Crow.
Really?
Just because it'd be a fun one to go through. There's a certain draw for me for that character that I've always loved. When I was a teenager, I watched that movie and I'm like, that's awesome. I love that character. So I think that'd be a kind of an interesting one to play through. But other than that, Wayne's World.
Oh my God, that would be hilarious.
Yeah, I think The Princess Bride would be fun.
Oh, that's a good.
That was one of the ones I thought of too.
I'd want to be Wesley because he's good at everything. But
I'd want to be Andre the Giant.
or yeah, Andre.
Anyone want a peanut?
I think I'd laugh through the whole movie though.
That would be the problem. Ghostbusters.
Well, we
No,
know.
what?
I think, but Princess. I thought about Princess, but here's the thing: there's so many movies. Like, there's certain standouts. Of course, I don't know if I'd want to do Star Wars. I don't know if I'd want to do Star Wars.
No?
That would be the thing. Like,
Spaceballs.
Spaceballs would be epic.
Yeah.
Spaceballs would definitely be worth it,
Yeah, for sure.
Hell yeah.
especially with all the rumors of them maybe eventually doing a second one.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Someday.
And I'm like you. I kind of like the idea of doing part 3, the search for part 2.
Yes.
Oh.
Yeah, Spaceballs 3, the search for 2.
But I mean, seriously, especially like now that we are getting virtual reality stuff that's pretty decent. I mean, they're getting the consoles that are. I mean, they're still pretty hefty in price, $500-$600, $400-$500-$600. Love to go through a movie like that. Like,
But they've gone even further, and they've actually got the rig that you can stand in now. And as you walk around in this little circle, you will move within the game. So there's little sensors on your feet, and as you're walking around, it moves you around, which I thought was pretty cool too.
So all I could think the whole time during this book was, he's talking about their haptic gloves and glasses, and I just thought, man, like eventually we're going to get to the point where all this cool new stuff we have is old and outdated. Like we look at Ataris and cassette tapes and everything, and it's a little depressing. It's a little exciting at the same time, because right now it's all new and the state of the art, and someday it's going to be junk.
It's funny. We were talking about that at work the other day, and one of the guys is like bored with his iPhone. He's like, "Yeah, I don't like iPhone anymore. I'm gonna go to something else." And they're like, "No, you're just bored with your iPhone."
Yeah, our attention spans.
Oh, we are terrible.
yeah, pretty much. So this leads to the next thing, which we kept hinting at the entire time. So this movie has been optioned. This book has been optioned for a movie. Ernest Cline, I think, wrote the first, which gives me high hopes. It's being produced by Steven Spielberg, which also gives me high hopes.
Yeah.
Question on whether or not they're going to be able to pull it off, which we started talking about actually before the show, was rights. This literally pulls in stuff. I mean, every single copyright holder basically would have to be.
Yeah. I seriously hope that they all agree. And like the good thing is that Disney owns most of it. So if you can get them on board, then you've got the majority of it. But it's and then they've also shown that Sony and Marvel can bridge the gap. So I'm hoping that all of them see what they could get out of this and be like, you know what? Let's be a part of this and let's actually allow this.
Yeah.
Well, they need to. I was just thinking they need to point back to something like Who Framed Roger Rabbit, because I mean that was like an impossible feat to get Disney and Warner Brothers to have their characters appear on screen at the same time.
Yep.
But even sooner, even more modern, they need to really point to the Lego movie.
Yes.
Lego did a stroke of genius by getting the rights to all of these different companies and basically saying, they didn't really have to ask to use the characters because they already had the digital rights version or, the rights to use the Lego version of that character. They just were like, okay, well, we're not going to make a movie out of it. They need to point that out that, look, everyone loved the fact of seeing these different characters mingling together in how great would it be to see Ultraman and Mechagodzilla and X-Wings and TIE Fighters and DeLoreans and, Ecto-1s and everything from everything.
Star Trek. Like there's
That would
Star
be-
Trek references, and yeah,
It's overwhelming how many talks about and how many things the characters had to learn about and just know at any given time. And I mean,
Yep.
I would have, not been any help in most of those situations.
Well, he did reference his Grail diary quite a bit, though. So,
Yeah.
which I definitely would have to do because I have a horrible memory. So, yeah, trying to remember half of the stuff. You're absolutely right. Trying to remember half the stuff, and then the skill sets to have. Like he's like, oh yeah, I was really good at playing video games. Like that was his thing, and I'm like, I used to be pretty good at playing video games, but like I said, like some of the games he listed, I sucked at.
yeah,
But then he programs all these things and he hacks his identity and does, things that he makes it sound like it's so easy. And I'm like, if you're hacking it though, obviously not everybody can do it, but you
Yeah.
have to be pretty smart to be able to change your identity and I don't know.
Well, alrighty then. I think that pretty much wraps up our discussion of by Ernest Cline. So, our next book, which we had a very short list this time, but very heavily influenced, is going to be the new Star Wars book that just recently came out, Star Wars Catalyst. This is a precursor to Rogue One. So if you have not already read it, movie, it's fine. This is basically just going to fill in a lot of backstory for you. I'm hoping maybe that I can get through the book pretty quickly and then maybe go watch the movie again so that I'll get, the backstory again to, that maybe the movie was missing. Which is funny because now that you watch the movie, you really need to go back and watch A New Hope because it fills in a lot of stuff on it. But
It's a vicious cycle.
yeah, it's exactly, just too much Star Wars. Not really. Never too much Star Wars. Next book that we're reading, Star Wars Catalyst. Hopefully we'll have it done by the end of the month, and we'll have our next episode out. Maybe a little bit late, just kind of depends on how the month goes for everyone. So, have you been reading anything else, Jennifer?
The only book I've really been reading or listening to actually is I just finished Bobby Bones's If You're Reading This, I'm Not Lonely, which is kind of a biography / entertainment, comedy book about his life. And he's a big
Cool.
DJ in a lot of markets. But that's it from
Yeah. Ray, you been reading anything else?
no. A lot of my time's been spent on trying to get through this one real quick, and then that didn't work out. And then and then the other one was just playing a lot of Xbox with Quinn because he's so excited to play, and Logan as well, because they're all excited for the new games that they got at Christmas. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get anything else read. The only other thing I got was a free book that came from Audible called The Dispatcher by John Scalzi. It was read by Zachary Quinto. By the way, he's a really good reader. It's a very short book. It's almost more just a short story because of its length. The idea is that for some reason no one understands, but in the near future, can't really die, and or if you die a certain way, like accidental or maybe it's through murder. I don't remember the exact specifics, but he's basically the main character is what's referred to as a dispatcher, and so he's hired by insurance companies and stuff that so like if someone's in surgery and the surgery is going bad, kills the person. And they wake up, like they disappear, and they wake up completely nude, but for whatever reason, back in their home, like. And so he's hired by insurance companies to basically keep people alive by kind of resetting them. Like you're not cured of whatever, or something like that. I think maybe that's what would kill you. If you died of the cancer, you'd be dead. But if you're killed an hour later, basically at that point. And it goes through some interesting ideas how you could kind of bend the rules a little bit, as it were. So I don't want to give away too much about it, but it's called
How
The
do they handle
Dispatchers by John Scalzi.
Sorry.
I think it kind of touched on was the population control situation.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
Interesting.
yeah, like I said, it's very short. I got through it really quickly. It's not very long, so if you run across it, you could probably finish it, within a couple of days, or maybe even in one sitting. Who knows?
I was just going to add one thing that I have not read yet, but I'm interested in reading now because we got through it. Westworld. HBO has done Westworld, which is based on a novel of the same name, and there's a whole series. But anyway, if you get a chance,
it really was a series. I didn't realize that.
It's a series, yeah. So you got to check it out if you get a chance, because the HBO version is got me very interested in reading the book.
Yeah, I'm halfway through the series. I never read the original book. I watched the original movie, but I never read the original book.
Yeah.
Very interesting. I'll have to check that out. I'll have to put that on my reading list now.
Yeah.
In fact, I may go ahead and do that right this second. Give us a 5-star rating on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play, wherever it is you catch the show. We're also on YouTube. You can find us at epicallygeeky.com as well, and then you can find the site on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at epicallygeeky as well. Next book is Star Wars Catalyst. We'll be back next month. But between now and then, you can also follow our individual adventures online. Ray, where can we find you online?
Just search for Lake Life Artist on Instagram.
Jennifer, where can we find you online?
Instagram at Het's Gonna Be Me.
And you can follow my wacky adventures online at Optimus Gene on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. One last thing. If you would like to, you can do it through Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Send us book recommendations. If there's a book you think we would enjoy reading and would like to hear us talk about on the show, definitely send us your recommendations. For everyone on the site, have a good night.